Children's preferred games have also changed with toddlers nowadays seen playing with tablets or smartphones. Modern technology and lifestyles are putting a strain on most parents as the gadgets has cost a bomb. Realizing the economic impact, some parents are now encouraging their children to play traditional games or creating activities for them. Therefore, let's recall what the kampung traditional games such as Wow, Congkak, Mata Seremban, Gasing, and Sepak Takraw played by Malaysians Gen X kids like me. Mini games were creatively created from free natural resources. Gen Y kids still play some of them, and it's truly strange for Gen Z born after 2000.
Mata Seremban is a historical and heritage kind of traditional game, unique and different. The game was inherited from the great-grand generations of descendants before world of civilizations. Let me show you how to play Mata Seremban. Step 1. Throw all 5 stones whilst throwing a stone. Pick up one stone and catch the stone in the air before it falls to the ground. Do this for each of the stones on the ground. Step 2. Repeat step 1 but pick up 2 stones at a time. Step 3. Repeat step 1 but pick up a combination of 3 stones and 1. Step 4. Throw all the 5 stones, pick up 4 stones whilst 1 stone is in the air and catch the latter before it falls to the ground. Step 5. Whilst throwing 1 stone, place the 4 on the ground, throw 1 stone and spin and catch it whilst picking all 4 stones on the ground. Step 6. Throw all 5 stones on the ground. The opponent select a stone to be thrown in the air. The player has to pick this stone without moving any others. The player throws the stone in the air and picks the remaining on the ground in one clean sweep.
Dancing or top spinning is a traditional game among Malay, especially among the villages in the state of Kelantan and Malacca. Each season after the rice harvest, several villagers will come together to challenge each other in an ultimate test of skill. The villagers believe that the spinning top will help bring good harvest. The spinning contest, the one who can spin his top for the longest time wins the match. Once the top has been launched, the top is carefully scooped off the ground using a thin wooden bat. It will then be transferred to a little wooden surface and left to spin for as long as possible. The trick here is to ensure that the top doesn't topple during the transit. Though it may seem an unbelievably slow, the current record stands at 2 hours. The striking match is far more exciting than the first. At least you don't need to stand there for hours watching a top spin and spin and spin. The striking match is as the name suggests. Each opponent must try to hit their opponent's top so that the already spinning top will topple and loses its balance and speed.
Meletup tali, letak pandai beramal sini besar. Ya, meletup. Meletup, ya, 4 bilik kata pusing. Biru. Ya, datik.
The word wow was derived from the Arabic letter wow as the shape of the wing resemblances to the outline of the particular letter. It was also said that the farmer in the past used the wow to scare crows to ward off the birds from their paddy fields. In Malaysia, the most popular of all the wow is wow bulan. It was certain that the name fits one of the 3 countries' official kites, where the name takes after the shape of the moon, as the tail of the wow itself looked like the crescent. Compared to the traditional size of the wow bulan, the other kites is quite small. It was measured 2.5 meters wide and 3.5 meters long. Thus, there are lots of spaces that can be used for the decorations for the kite. The typical color for the kites usually are strong colored patterns or bright colors to make it look more extraordinary. As for the designs, Wang Bulan usually differs of the floral drawings with the thick lines to ensure that the kite can really go far from the other kites that fly with it. Also, with this Wang Bulan, it has a string bow that was attached to it. This will produce a very soft wailing tone when it was flown away in the sky. Normally, the wow will be played by two people, which will hold a wow and another called the interpreter, who holds the rope bridge. When the wind blows, the rope will be pulled against the wind currents and how to extend until the drawstring wow was high in the air.
Cara je apa? Buat mana nak turun nak modal tu? 1, 2, 3, lah.
Congkat is a two-player game where opponents compete to get the most shell into their storehouse. Congkat used to be a game that was played only by women and children, but it is a really great game for anyone of any age. The gameplay is similar to Mancala and it is popular in countries all over the world. Congkat is quite easy to learn, so if you have Congkat board, you can learn the rules and start playing right away. Firstly, players take turns moving the seats except in the first move, which is performed simultaneously, beginning with the hole closest to his or her own store. After the first stimulation movement, once the last seat falls into the empty hole, the player's first turn is over. An opponent player who reaches an empty hole first commences his or her turn after other player has finished his opening move too. On a turn, the player chooses one of his 7 holes under the control. The player removes all seeds from his hole and distributes them each hole clockwise from his hole, in a process called sowing. Sowing skips an opponent's store and doesn't skip a player's own store. Secondly, if a player is unable to fill a hole with 7 seeds, that hole is considered burned. All excess seeds are returned to the store. The round begins with the player with no burn holes taking his turn or her turn sowing first. Thirdly, if the last seed falls into an occupied hole, all the seeds are removed from the hole and sown starting from that hole. The process continues until the last seed falls into a player's store or an empty hole. Fourthly, if the last seed falls into a player's own store, they are immediately earn another turn which can be gained at any of the 7 holes under their control. Last but not least, the game ends when the player has no seed in his holes at the start of his turn. The remaining seeds are awarded to his opponent.
Sepak takraw or kick volleyball is a sport native to Southeast Asia. Sepak takraw differs from the similar sport of volleyball in its use of a rattan ball and only allowing players to use their feet, knee, chest and head to touch the ball. It is a popular sport in Southeast Asia. There are a few techniques and rules you need to know before you start playing sepak takraw. Firstly, sepak takraw is basically foot badminton or foot volleyball. Secondly, it is played on a similar court to doubles badminton with the server serving in the middle or the back half of the court.
Thirdly, having served, volley kicked a throw from the net by a teammate, the ball must then travel over the net to begin play. Fourthly, the opposing team will then try to volley the ball back over the net into the opposition's court. Fifthly, every team may have as many as 3 touches between themselves, but in order to win a point, the ball must land in the opposition's court. If it lands outside, it will be the opposing team's point. Last but not least, points are played up to 21. Unless the 20 to 21 scoreline is achieved, then you must win by 2 clear points. After learning the techniques and rules, here is how you play the game.
Today's children are more lucky with the computer games or not, but I definitely will choose this free game I play with I were reborn as playing these traditional games with our peers is fond memory and invaluable experience that no money can buy. Some traditional games played by the older generation born in 70 and earlier, and hope our new generation can appreciate how their foreparents and grandparents spent their joyful childhood days with these games.